Ugh. This has been a roller coaster of a day. But I've missed too many weeks of uploading, so here we are. And I'm going to plow through regardless of all the shit going on in my life right now. I'm actually going to talk about a book that's not The Hunger Games. I actually can't believe it myself. I think the last book I talked about that wasn't to do with the Hunger Games universe. Well, no, that's the Hunger Games universe. I was about to say The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but tragically, it counts as the Hunger Games universe. So, last book that I talked about that was part of the Hunger Games, that wasn't part of the Hunger Games universe, was By the Time You Read This, I'll Be Dead. And that was kind of a rant review. I hated how it portrayed suicide and mental health, and because of that, I made a video about it on my channel that was very irregular even back then for me, because back then I was talking about Shadowhunters and I did like review videos for each episode each week. But last week, I think it was, I finished a book called Survive the Night by Danielle Vega, and I was immediately ranting to my friend Neve about it after I read it, and she said, you should make a video about this just to get your ranty thoughts out. She believes my most enjoyable videos are the ones where I rant about whatever topic it is that's annoying me. So here we are. Survive the Night is about a girl called Casey who's a recovering drug addict. She got into drugs after she became involved with the wrong crowd after she broke her knee and got addicted to painkillers during the recovery process. And basically this book is set just after she got out of rehab, and it follows her going with her friend Julie and Aya and another person whose name I can't remember. These characters are so generic, I just don't care about their names. I barely cared if any of them died, so you expect me to remember their names? Pfft. Anyway, she meets up with her friends and they go to this rave called Survive the Night. And the impression I got when I read the blurb of this book was that Survive the Night, this rave they were going to, was going to be like surviving the night. Even when they show up to this rave, the security guard won't let them leave. They try to find a toilet and the security guard's like, no one leaves until 5 AM. So immediately I was like, oh, I was right. This is going to be that at some point someone's going to die and there's going to be like a killer moving around this rave, and the entire point of this rave is to survive the night alive. And that's why they weren't allowed out. Pretty soon after her friend Julie is the girl who got Casey addicted to drugs in the first place, and you can tell this because she has cool hair and her hair's dyed a funny colour and she's just so rough and cool and mysterious. Julie drugs her at the rave. She puts, I don't know what the fuck, I don't know what drugs are. She puts something into Casey's drink. Casey thinks that she's in a whole fucking like, she thinks she's going crazy, obviously, because she doesn't know that she's been drugged yet. And she finds Julie's body. Her friend who drugged her is not called Julie. This is how badly these characters all meld into each other. Julie is the friend who dies first. The friend who drugged her is called Shanna. Shanna is the cool, mysterious one with the dyed hair and all that bullshit. I swear, these characters, none of them stand out. They're all little, like, popsicle sticks with bits of fluff stuck on the top of their heads as hair. Shanna is the one who drugged her, and Casey stumbles upon Julie's dead body, and from then on it basically becomes a survival story about trying to get out of this sewer because the rave is in an underground sewer without getting killed. At first they're all like, oh Casey, you've just relapsed, you just imagined it, you took some drugs and you had a trip and we'll find Julie. So they go off looking for Julie with her boyfriend Sam and Sam's friend Woody. Oh, her ex-boyfriend, sorry, because you know when it's a life and death situation, relationships matter. So when they're way off looking for Julie, the rave gets raided by the police and everyone disappears. So that's my idea of a serial killer going around and the entire point of Survive the Night being to survive the night. That's that out the window because they're all gone now. And they were all raided and nothing happened to everyone else. But they do find Julie's body again and it becomes clear that something is after them. And basically what this book turns into is a creature feature.
there's some monster. It's never really properly described. It's got tentacles and it can possess people. And it's in this sewer and it is what's killing everyone. And that is not the impression I got that this book was going to be when I bought it. I thought it was going to be about a rave where people were being killed and they had to survive the night, but that is not the book I got. And basically everyone dies except for Casey, which you can probably guess. When you're reading a horror novel, it's pretty obvious who the final girl is going to be. Like, you don't really get a prize for guessing who the character that's going to survive is. I did think that maybe her ex-boyfriend would survive because they got back together and all that bullshit throughout this murderous time. They managed to rekindle how much they cared about each other and some crap like that, because you know that's important right now. Basically, any character who had the potential to be interesting was killed off immediately. Julie, even Woody ends up getting killed, and then it's the three most unbearable characters that you have to deal with for the rest of the book, which is Shanna, the ex-boyfriend Sam, and the main character Casey. And Shanna is probably one of the most deplorable characters I've read in a book for a very long time now, particularly in a book directed towards young adults. Because this book very clearly tried to have a message about drugs, with Casey being a recovering drug addict. She just got out of rehab. You think that there's going to be some sort of very usually anti-drug message in there. But despite that, we learn about how Casey condones Shanna's drug behaviour way before any of this even started. Shanna even tried to sell Casey's body at one point to get drugs, and she still came back to this girl. And yet throughout this experience, she starts to learn how much of a piece of shit Shanna is, particularly when Shanna drugs her when she is trying to recover. But we're still meant to feel sorry for Shanna when she's killed. We're supposed, like, Casey cares about Shanna and worries about her and worries about her getting hurt and dying. No, fuck her. Am I, as a reader, supposed to care about this piece of shit character who drugs our main character and is just all round a piece of shit? Like, no, that is not how the reading experience works. I'm glad that they had Casey come to the realization of her friend being a piece of shit, but it's kind of made irrelevant by the fact that she tries to protect her and she tries to go back down into the sewer when Shanna is killed, and you're like, why? You shouldn't care. I, as a reader, am not in suspense. And we never find out shit about this monster. And yes, there should be some mystery in there. If you don't want to tell us why the monster's in the sewer or what its purpose is, that's fine. But you don't even really get an idea of what this monster looks like. All you ever get is that there's tentacles and a claw. And if it digs its claw into you, I think that it can possess you, although that's never directly said. You know, like sometimes the characters will like stumble into a room and it'll be full of different symbols and runes and convenient books about what the monster's doing here and how it was summoned or conjured or whatever. There's none of that. You have no idea what this thing is, really no idea what it looks like, besides that it's pretty much the start of it, the beginning of a hentai porn. And you don't even get an idea of why it only goes after these people in particular, because it kills Julie, and I think it kills a homeless man. And then the party's raided, but the party's been going on for hours before it's raided, like nearly the time where it's supposed to end, and it literally goes after no one else, except for these people when everyone else is gone, even though it killed Julie and the homeless man during the rave. But no one else, just Julie and the homeless man. And the ending just gets even worse. I'm not going into great detail. I am spoiling shit, but I'm not going into detail because you're not missing a lot, trust me. Casey and her ex-boyfriend, or boyfriend at this point, I don't know. Your boyfriend's seconds from dying. Does the ex really matter anymore? I don't know. But they get to the surface, but Sam dies on the surface. And Shanna gets caught by the monster and is pulled back into the sewer. So Casey goes to the hospital, and Shanna's body ends up being recovered, but it is said that Sam's was missing. And it turns out that Shanna's body was recovered because she was possessed by the tentacle monster. And here's why this bothers me. Shanna being the one that gets possessed by the tentacle monster doesn't make sense to me, because if Sam disappeared, then obviously the monster was able to pull him back in. If the monster was able to do that, Why didn't it just reach out to possess Sam and have him taken to the hospital instead of having to drag Shanna's wet, wringing dead body out of the sewer and replacing her with Sam? It was clearly, very evidently, a convoluted plan just so that Casey and basically the friend who destroyed her life can have some sort of like showdown at the end. And then obviously, because Shanna is a rough character, she gets blamed on all the murders even though no bodies are found except for Shanna's, because Casey ends up having to kill Shanna in the hospital. So yeah, they just say, oh fuck it, they're all gone, we'll just blame her. She tried to kill Casey, so that must mean she killed the others. Because who cares about logic or investigation or anything like that when you need to wrap up a book? It was a very rushed ending, and it was a very disappointing book in the first place. I would have been interested to see these people trying to go through the sewer system as part of the rave to try and survive the night so that they don't get killed by some serial killer or something. There's no indication whatsoever that this book is going to be a creature feature until you're reading it. And I was extremely disappointed even in the creature of the feature. I gave it 1 star on Goodreads. 100% do not recommend. Characters are unbearable. Casey has no backbone. The drug message is really mixed up. It tries to be dark but doesn't really hit the mark properly. All the other characters are either boring or they're killed off or they're unbearable or they're pieces of shit like Shanna. They worry too much about romance when romance should be the last fucking thing on your mind right now. And it's just an all-round terrible book. Would not recommend it at all. So, no. Anyway guys, that's my video on Survive the Night by Danielle Vega. I have not been so badly annoyed by a book before in quite a while. My Sister the Serial Killer nearly got there, but not quite to this level of annoyance. So yes, the first book that's really probably pissed me off in a while, and you can thank Neve for this rant review. And what do you guys think? Have you read the books? Do you have any interest in reading the book now? Or have you read it before? What do you think? Let me know down below. And I'll see you next time, guys. Remember, I wouldn't recommend this book. Don't read it. You can if you want, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's terrible. Terrible. Okay?